Tom Lee was born in Beijing, raised in New Jersey, and grew up in a high school that was 80% Asian. He decided to become a lawyer at age 5, not out of passion, but because it seemed like the safe thing to do. We talk about identity, belonging, and the choices that quietly shaped him. Here on The Drink of Choice.
So, welcome to another episode of Drink of Choice. And today we have a very special guest from Troy Gold.
Yes.
Tom Lee. He's a corporate lawyer, and I've been working with him very closely ever since I came to this firm. Just an awesome guy, general corporate lawyer. So, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome, Tom.
Thank you. Thank
Nice
you
to
guys.
meet you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I think actually, so today you actually had a very interesting drink of choice that we decided not to drink at 10 a.m.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. I wanted to bring well, first of all, I didn't know if you guys were just going to drink anything that I brought. I didn't know if that was like
Well,
kinda
that's a
what we're
rule. We
doing
pretty
here.
much have to drink anything
Okay.
that the guest brings.
Yeah. Maybe in a future episode I'll bring. But I wanted to bring Baijiu, which is just like a Chinese liquor. It's kind of like the liquor of choice in China. But 10 a.m. I decided to bring some coffee instead and
Oh.
ease into the day.
Well, we can still talk about Baijiu. I mean, what does that drink mean to you? Why is it so important?
Yeah, I think I grew up around it in a sense. Like I was born in China. When I turned 16, my dad moved back to China. My mom moved back to China when I turned 18. And so I go back to China a lot. I went back to China a lot when I was a kid. So, even though I'm American, I've been here since I was 4.5. I feel like China's like my second home.
Mm.
And, whenever we have people over eating Chinese food, that's like the best thing, in my opinion, to drink. It just goes really well with Chinese food.
I guess it's like us with soju.
Yeah.
I also came to the U.S. when I was 4.5 years old, and I go back to Korea quite
Okay,
often.
cool.
And you came when you were in junior high?
No, high school, yeah.
In high school, yes. And we go back quite often. So,
Yeah.
what part of China are you from? Or were you born?
I was born in Beijing, and that's pretty much the only city in China I'm familiar with. That's like where my extended family is. It's where my mom and dad currently live. So I go back there a lot. We've obviously like traveled around China a decent amount, but that is like the city that we go back to. My partner, unfortunately, like the times that we get to visit China, because we're busy a lot of the time, is in the winter, and Beijing just fucking sucks in the winter because it's just so cold. But yeah, mostly Beijing.
Okay. And you came over when you said when you were 4.5 years old. Did you immigrate to the U.S.?
Yeah, exactly. So my parents, like, I think this was early 90s, and so, for them, for immigrants back then from China, I think one of the paths was like to get their PhD in the U.S. I get the details kind of mixed up, but my mom basically came first. I think I was like 1 year old, 1 years old. She came. She was getting her PhD here. Once she was more settled, my dad left, came over when I was like 2 or 3, I think. And so my grandparents raised me for a couple of years after that. And then I think once they finally like had enough, cash to support a child, and they were kind of in their programs and settled, they brought me over. And I think it took a while to like get a visa for me. And get a green card for me. I'm sure that would be impossible now to do.
Yeah.
Like whatever steps they did to get over here would just be impossible. But yeah, they got their PhDs here. They, eventually we moved to Silicon Valley. My dad worked in tech. He had his own startup. My mom worked in like a bioscience company for a bit. So yeah, that's how it should work, right? They came over,
Yeah.
they were,
Sounds pretty good to
got
me.
an education, became productive members of society, and contributed, paid their taxes. So it's kind of sad to see what it's become. Very politicized, and all these restrictions placed on people coming over. But
And
yeah,
which is pretty interesting because nowadays, AI is one of the biggest things in Silicon Valley, and most of the AI engineers are from China. So, I think we'll be having some pretty significant impact on some of the brightest minds coming to the US to really contribute to this technology.
Yeah, not just AI, but all kinds of different industries, I think. Medical industry, right?
Hmm.
Software. I
yeah,
mean, it's just sad what's happening. But I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut us off here. We're about to get into some interesting conversation, but we forgot.
Yeah.
He has a drink of choice 1A or 1B.
yeah,
1B.
The
yeah.
second
I mean,
drink
I
of
just
choice.
love cold brew, and
Hmm.
I mean, I'm an addict. I'm addicted to coffee,
Mm.
and like any addict, I want to share my my drug with you guys, and so I like cold brew because I don't know, it's easy. I don't have to wait in line for it at the store. They
Uh,
don't. It's just a direct hit, you
yeah.
know. But yeah, I Blue Bottle's close by. I actually people hate on Blue Bottle because they're like, oh, it's owned by Nestle, blah 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 blah. But I just need the caffeine, man, and it's good. It's a lot of
Is this
caffeine.
the New Orleans, the sweeter one?
Yeah, this is. I think they call it the iced Nola.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think the main difference is I think it's still cold brew, but they put some sort of maybe syrup in it, and then there's oat milk.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
well,
cheers, Joe.
cheers.
Hey, thanks for bringing this for us.
Thanks for having me.
Just needs a shot of Baijiu in there.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it'd be
yeah,
perfect.
yeah, yeah.
You know, hot toddy in
Yeah,
the morning,
Yeah,
Chinese style.
So instead of Irish coffee, is the Chinese coffee?
I love
Yeah.
that.
Chinese
Yeah.
coffee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we gotta try that.
Yeah.
Gotta try that out. Totally.
So, where in LA did you, or in the US did you settle in
Yeah.
initially?
Yeah, it's kind of so it's funny. So kind of going back, part of the reason my parents left China. So I was born in '89, which is the year of Tiananmen Square.
Mm.
And they were born. My parents are from Beijing too. My understanding is like most of the college educate people in college. I think my dad was in a master's program at the time. He was very involved with his university. Like a lot of them were part of like that movement. Maybe I don't think they were like actively protesting or anything, but people, yeah, were like, it was a student movement. It was a
Mhm.
student movement that went wrong. I mean, and so after that happened, like both my parents, I think, were like, we just got to get the fuck out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what drove them. So I don't think they really thought hard about choosing a specific place.
Mm.
Just kind of let's try to get into a graduate program. So we ended up in Newark, New Jersey.
Mm.
So I was in New Jersey from 4 years old to 8 years old. And then once they finished their programs, my dad, I think, got a job in the Bay Area. And yeah, we moved to, eventually ended up in Fremont, which is this like city south of Oakland, north of San Jose, East Bay Area. And I grew up in this like very siloed, like mostly Chinese American, Taiwanese American community.
Mm-hmm.
Like my high school, I think was, and there was like, South Asians, Indians. But my high school, if you like just looked at all the Asians, it was 80% Asian.
Mm.
Yeah.
How about compared to the entire school population? Was it meaningful percentage of students were Asian?
It was 80% Asian.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
our high school is 80% Asian.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, growing up in that kind of environment is like, how did you feel? Because I went to high school, actually went near the Bay,
Yeah.
and I would say less than 10% was Asian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My high school had 4 Asians, including me and my
Asians.
brother. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I when you're in it, you don't, I guess you do get a sense that like, yeah, this might be a little different, but you're just kind of in it as a kid and you don't really, I didn't really get a sense that it was a different type of upbringing until I got to law school actually. Because after high school, I went to UC Irvine,
oh,
Okay.
which was like 50% Asian.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's still like almost a majority Asian people. And so, but yeah, I think there were good and bad things about it. Looking back, maybe maybe more bad because you're very insulated, and it's all these Asian immigrants who brought their kids over, and they went to that specific school because it was like I guess it was a good
Mm.
school,
Yeah, yeah.
and so it was hyper competitive.
Oh yeah.
It
Yeah,
was like
so
it was just like a bunch of tiger moms, like and my mom was not really like that, so I kind of felt this weird pressure to like try to keep up,
mm,
even though like I didn't need to do that.
It's almost like being back in Asia, right?
Yeah,
With the
I mean,
competition. And now that
yeah,
I think about it, I went to UC Berkeley,
yeah,
and had a lot of Chinese American friends who are from Fremont,
yeah, yeah,
and I didn't make that connection until now.
yeah. So the high school is called Mission San Jose High School. I think it's still probably majority Asian is my guess. But yeah, and then I think growing up in a kind of community like that, and then going to UC Irvine, and then eventually getting to law school. What I learned through that process, finally getting to law school, is like I just didn't know how to talk to white people really.
Yeah.
Like
You know,
not
yeah.
really, not in the way that like you have to if you're going to be a lawyer. And so that was like a big like I had to learn how to present myself and like talk in this like kind of white dominated structure ultimately. So that was interesting. There was a lot of growth there.
that's a kind of curious observation. What do you think you need to do differently?
I think a lot of it was just the way I talked and the way that I maybe kind of had to just the way people communicate, I think, is a little
Yeah.
different. I don't know.
Social dynamics are completely
The
different.
social
Yeah.
dynamics are different. I can't really pinpoint an exact thing. I think also part of it is just myself being comfortable.
Yeah.
It was like going to law school. It was like all these people whose parents had been lawyers or had had been exposed to the law in some way. Like that just didn't really exist in my community. It was like all engineers that came here.
Yeah, yeah.
Like they don't, and it's like traditional Asian households. They don't really share feelings that much. There's not
Right.
not really a lot of talking about like, what's going on like in your life and your day. So, just the way people communicate and like
Yeah.
talk about that stuff. Like me and my friends had our own way of communicating. But it was not like the way people talked to each other or about things in law school.
That's really interesting because I think my experience was the opposite when going to college. Like I said, I grew up in Ventura, California, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
not many Asians there.
No, not
And
many.
I went to a Catholic high school, so not many Asians, 4, including my brother and I, in the entire high school. And so I was comfortable with with hanging out with my Caucasian friends, my
Yeah.
Latino friends. And then I went to Berkeley and I thought, hey, there's so many Koreans here and so many Asian Americans here.
Yeah.
I should try to learn about my roots and try to make friends with other Koreans. I had no Korean friends. And when I tried to put myself in that culture, in that environment with Korean American, I joined like Korean American Student Association and all that. I felt like an outsider.
Yeah.
That transition was hard for me, trying to get back into sort of the Korean and Korean American sort of environment.
I bet. Yeah, there's just like cultural differences. I don't know how to explain it.
Is
Or
it-
there's just like, yeah.
Is it just being a little bit more conscious of your race? And does that really just kind of
Well,
change?
it's not
this
just
a-
your race, but it's your whole sort of how you behave, your assumptions, your social values, all of those things. All of those constructs are quite different depending on what environment, what atmosphere you grew up in. And
Yeah.
quite the opposite. We've talked about before when I lived in Asia for 30 years and I just came back to the United States. And my sort of worldview and my perspective changed again. So I've been around Asians for 30 years in
Yeah.
Korea or Singapore. We're sort of the majority. And then I come back to the US and now I'm self-conscious about, especially if I'm the only Asian in the room.
Yeah.
I never used to care about that before.
Yeah.
But now I'm just like, well, are they looking at me because I'm Asian?
Yeah.
Are they making fun of me because I say things differently? I mean, I don't like it. I'm not doing it consciously, but I can definitely feel that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and that period for me was just like a lot of growth because I went straight into law school. Maybe I don't. Did you do that too, or did you?
No, I went to music business masters in between,
Got it.
and I had a little bit transition period.
You got to
but-
hang out with the cool kids.
Yeah, yeah. I think I needed that, but like I did a lot of growing up in law school because, like, it was from 22 to 25,
Yeah.
which I guess you should be an adult by then. But
And where did you go to law school?
I was really not an adult. UCLA Law.
Oh, UCLA.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
again, a lot of Asians, but not in the law school.
Not 80% or 50%. Yeah, it was the first time where I was in an environment where, it was like majority white,
Mhm.
actually,
Mhm.
which is kind of crazy to think about. Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't until I was 22.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you
But
know
I
what?
was I was American, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I felt I consumed American culture, gravitated towards all types of American culture.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was never in like a white dominated space or majority white space until law school. Yeah.
You know what UCLA stands for, right?
You see a lot of Asians.
You see a
That's
lot of
pretty
Asians.
good.
Oh, close.
It's pretty good.
University of California, lost amongst Asians.
Oh.
Similar.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think I want to say maybe it was like 25%
Mm. Yeah, so
Asians
it's
in law
not
school.
bad.
Yeah, it's diverse. It's very diverse.
It's growing now. When I went to school, I remember, of course, my parents, they wanted me to be, number one,
Yeah.
doctor.
Mhm.
Number two, scientist or engineer.
Yeah.
And then that's it. There is no number three, basically, right?
Yeah.
And when I told them I was going to go to law school, it was like I told them the world was ending or something, right? They didn't accept that. They thought that I was going to be a failure. No offense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I eventually didn't go to law school, but I think, what did your parents say? Because they are also scientists, I'm assuming engineers.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Like I said, I grew up in an area with a lot of tiger moms and like kind of helicopter parents. My parents were not like that. And so my parents actually gave me a lot of freedom, and it often felt like we're like very like laissez-faire kind of, because they were so busy. Like my dad was like running a startup in my early teens. Then he went back to China to be like a dean of like a new school at the university there.
Wow.
Yeah. So he was just like, he's very busy. And then my mom was also very busy. Like, I had a little brother. She was trying to raise both of us. There was parts where like, because my dad was gone, she was like basically a single parent.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think they really had time to like bug me on that kind of stuff. I actually chose law because I didn't really know what else to do, and I knew it would make them at least happy. So they could feel like, oh, he's going to choose something that is secure. It worked out,
Yeah.
but it was very much like it was like people say lawyer or doctors are good. I think I was like, 5 or 6 when I made this decision in my head.
Ooh, 5 or 6.
I think so. Like very early.
Very early.
Very early. And I just kind of stuck to it because it was easy. Like I can just think about that.
Yeah.
And that was like a large part of my early life. Like I wasn't that great of a high school student. I was, better in college because it was easier than my super competitive high school. But, like it was easier for me at that time to just say, oh, I'm just going to focus doing all the pre-law stuff, get into law school. That's just a path. And
But at that young of an age, how would you even know what
I
a
didn't.
lawyer is?
I didn't. I had no
Did
idea.
you watch TV? Because I remember watching LA Law when I was growing up. And I was like, oh, that's so cool to be a lawyer. But I never saw any Asian American lawyers on TV.
Yeah,
No.
Sid,
So-
it's crazy. I think about that a lot. Like, once I got to law school, I was like, what the hell is this? I was just like, let me just get there. I wasn't even like, I didn't actually have like a passion or like it at the time. I was just doing it, like I said, to like
Not disappoint your
not
parents.
make my parents happy and choose something.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to do like something like science related and stuff, because that seemed harder to me. And I didn't really like math. So, but it's not like this profession is easy. And
No.
I think going through that process of like um realizing it's not what I expected, of like this job actually requires you like to talk a lot, to like interact with people. You have to be social, you can't
Mhm.
be shy, you have to kind of lead things,
Mhm.
and drive things. Like I don't really think I think if I told my young self that that's what it takes to be a good lawyer, probably would have switched to like computer science or something,
What did you
honestly.
think it was gonna be
I
like?
kind of thought it would be like I'm gonna be in an office, kind of like reading stuff, like
Yeah.
typing on the computer. Like,
Yeah.
oh, I like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
let me read and
Oh,
type on the computer. But
that's
it's
interesting because
yeah,
it's the exact opposite of experience as mine.
yeah,
Because I grew up watching lawyers on TV. They do the dramatic
yeah,
closing and the court case. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, that's so cool. And I thought a lot of becoming a lawyer would be the oratory skills, the debating, the
yeah.
in court sort of drama. And then when I clerked at a law firm after I graduated from college, it was all research. It was
Mm.
research,
Mm,
research, research, research. And I
yeah,
thought, oh, this is kind of boring. This is not what I expected. But for you, it's kind of the opposite, right?
yeah. Well, I knew I didn't want to do litigation. Like even very young, I knew I wanted to do like transactional deals, and I thought that was gonna be more like what you said, like just kind of looking into stuff, researching, putting contracts together, right? And our to some extent our job is that, but I don't know, it's also just so much more. You have to be talking to people all the time, advising people, making them feel comfortable, um, being like aggressive and driving a deal to completion, and taking ownership of a deal. So it's like, yeah, it's that stuff was not what I thought it was. And then but it's really made me grow as a person, right? I think like all that kind of struggle,
Mm-hmm.
right? Being thrown into a new environment in law school, that made me, be better, and then, working and realizing it's not what I expected, that also just ended up making me, better as a
But at
person.
that point, did you ever think this is not what I want to do?
Um Not really, actually.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean, there were points where I was working so much sometimes where I was like, this sucks. But no, no. I think luckily it ended up working out because for whatever reason I have like kind of a personality for it. Like I'm very kind of meticulous on certain things, and then yeah, I'm also just like a big kind of people pleaser in a lot of ways. So
Hmm.
like I want to service people and make sure they have, get what they want. So there's certain personality traits that kind of helped in the end, I think.
Well, that's good. And we've talked to, I mean, various lawyers, and it seems like that with that background, though, you can do other things in a later stage in life if you want
Yeah.
to pursue something else. It's a great background to have. Like for example, Han in music and
Yeah.
Tiff. Remember
Yeah.
we talked to her,
Yeah.
and she's thinking about music management. I have a lot of friends who have law degrees who are in finance and
Hmm.
tech, and they become agents,
Hmm.
sports agents, and now GM of president of operations at the Lakers, right?
Mm.
Totally.
So have you ever thought of maybe in your next chapter doing something different?
Yeah, I mean, I've thought of it. Um, I don't I don't know yet fully, and things can change, but I do kind of like working at a firm over at least being in-house somewhere because um in-house you're kind of just a cost center in a lot of ways, whereas here, we are like an attorney at a law firm is the revenue
Yeah.
generator. It is the sole thing that's making the money.
Hmm.
And I think that is nice. I mean, it gives us a lot of kind of leeway. Um, you know, and part of it is like we have a lot of different clients. Um, you try to service everyone well, but ultimately, like if they're not a good fit, if they're not a good client, it's not like you're beholden to them forever. Whereas like if you end up in a bad situation in house somewhere, it's like you can't really leave unless you quit your job.
Yeah, that's
So
right. So after law school, did you go straight into Troy Gold, or did you have some?
no, I was at a firm. It's called Packgate Law Group, and it's based in China in Beijing, but they had a satellite office in Los Angeles.
Mm.
So that's where I worked first after law school. That's where I really learned how to do like venture capital financings
Mhm.
mostly, and all the kind of emerging company startup work. That's where I learned it. Um, and then I ended up here because I worked across a deal with Calvin,
Mm.
and it was good. Like we closed the deal. It was both easy to work with, learned a lot, and I felt like I had kind of learned everything that I could at that law firm, and Troy Gold was just a bigger platform.
Mhm.
So took the clients that I had and made the switch.
Oh, nice.
Now, how long have you been here with Troy Gould?
Yeah, since 2019, so 7 years now.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Any desire to maybe work in China? Hopefully, Troy Gould is not hearing this, so so go
They're
ahead and
definitely
feel
hearing
free.
this.
Yeah,
But it's
we have
okay.
this-
But I think we work with China
You can
too.
tell us afterwards, and
Oh, I think we work with Chinese clients a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to spend more time in China. Again, my parents are there, and they're funny because they're like, oh, like, they're my dad's basically retired. My mom is kind of winding down, and they have like one foot in the U.S., one foot over
Mm.
there, and they're always just wondering like, oh, where should we end up retiring to? And it's like, seems like every time Trump is president, they're like, actually, let's stay in China. Let's stay in China for a little bit.
Yeah.
But I would love to spend more time there with them. I don't think I've thought about it a lot. I don't think I could live like in China for an extended period of time. But yeah, I would love to kind of grow our China practice. I mean, we have at Troy Gould a very strong Asia practice.
Mhm.
do you have an office there?
No.
Oh,
No,
there you go.
no.
Perfect.
Yeah, yeah.
You set up an office.
But I think, I have a lot of Korean clients and Asian
Yeah.
clients, and
Young does too.
Yeah.
Young
yeah.
has a ton of Korean clients as well. You both have like a very strong Korea practice. Calvin and I do get a lot of like clients. We used to get a lot more before kind of it cooled off a little bit because of just like the tension between the two companies. I think investments from China into the US and now also vice versa, they're just scrutinized a lot more nowadays. And there's certain things you have to do to not run afoul of CFIUS, for example, and other laws. So that has just cooled a lot, but we still get a lot of inquiries from Chinese clients or the Chinese diaspora here in LA or in California. So yeah.
Yeah, and I just kind of noticed. So I've been going to Korea a lot more over the past year. Probably went 4 times now, and just realized there's a lot of connections to be made, and there's a difference when you actually meet potential clients or clients in person.
Yeah.
And the fact that culturally we are kind of bicultural,
Mhm.
and the fact that you can kind of assimilate there and here is a really value add for those clients.
Totally.
And the firm is very supportive of to the extent that you go to Korea and stay a little bit extended period of time, and that's okay as long as you're doing your work.
Yeah.
And I think the time difference actually with Asia and LA is not
It's not
that
too bad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not too bad.
Right.
So typically
Because if you
around
start earlier in Asia, it's like afternoon here.
Yeah.
And you can actually like at least get on calls, exchange some emails
Yeah.
before like one side winds down. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like I would say 3 p.m. here, or at least in Korea, is around 7 a.m. there.
Yep.
So until 11 p.m., that's already around like 1, 2 p.m.
Yep.
in Asia. So that really kind of gives you a pretty long window to really communicate and actually do work.
I would imagine there's a lot more work for you guys these days because of. I mean, I'm a little older than you guys. I remember back in the day going to Korea in the '90s, '80s, and '90s, and as a Asian American, Korean American, I kind of didn't belong. I'm not
Hmm.
sure. Well, I wasn't a lawyer. I wasn't obviously. I was just a kid, but I had this feeling that I didn't belong in Korea. I didn't belong in the U.S. Both kind of sort of
Hmm.
shunned me as not one of their own,
Hmm.
and I didn't feel important
Hmm.
in that just juxtaposition there.
Yeah, I get it.
However, nowadays, because of in many different industries, investment into the U.S. from Asian companies, expansion into the U.S. I mean, when I was growing up, Hyundai wasn't even here yet. There were no Hyundai
Mm.
cars,
Yeah.
right? But all of that now with culture, with music, with IP, with so many different things coming into America and vice versa, American companies investing into Asia.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally a bridge. We are
Hmm.
that bridge. And now I see Asian Americans, Chinese Americans, Korean Americans, Thai Americans adding value, a lot of value.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it was only a matter of time, right? I mean, I think, those the Asian countries like Korea, China, I mean, they obviously have grown a lot in like our parents' lifetime and our lifetime,
Hmm.
have opened up, like you said, like cultural exchange. K-pop is like one of the biggest things in the US right now. Yeah, I think it was only a matter of time, and I think people like ourselves play a big part in that, and will play a big part in that, because I think you're right, Han. I think there's if it's something you have to kind of build, I think, that muscle of like being able to flip between like culture here and business culture here versus business culture back there. But if you can do that, and like you said, if you can do that without kind of, because a lot of it is just getting comfortable with it,
Yeah.
Hmm.
sitting in that
And
uncomfortableness.
understanding it too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
recognizing why you feel uncomfortable, and then like letting it go, and like it's realizing it's okay. But yeah, once you get through that, I do feel like that's a huge opportunity, and it's like something that I think we all like to do, right? Like,
Hmm.
Yeah.
who doesn't like being connecting cultures like that, or doing a deal that is cross border like that? I mean, I
Sure.
think
And even in my industry, which is F&B, right now I represent over a dozen Asian brands who want to expand to the US.
Mhm.
And 10 years ago, I would be representing nobody, to be
Yeah,
honest. But now, and there are more and more brands contacting me trying to
yeah, that's awesome.
expand overseas or globally from Korea to Singapore, Singapore to Korea, or Singapore to the US as well. So it's really interesting to see that sort of, I guess, globalization of Asian brands and people like us are there in the middle to help them out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
good
I
to
think
see.
Asian brands are like getting cool now.
Hmm.
Back in the day it was
It's
like the globalization was like, oh, let's move like all of our low, like our kind of menial labor over
hmm
to those countries. And like, yeah, like back then I remember, in China there would be like all these weird knockoff brands of like US brands that like just were not good.
Hmm.
It was, to be fair, they were just like not good. If it was food, it like didn't taste as good. They were trying to be just as like knockoff like Chinese Cheetos, but it just was not happening. But now I think like, it takes time, but now I think it's like, yeah, people want a taste of, Japanese or Korean or Chinese culture. I think it's just become more desirable here in the
Hmm.
US, which is cool.
Speaking of Chinese products, I think it's still sort of instilled in mainstream America that Chinese products are inferior in terms of manufacturing or assembly, but that is just not the case. I mean, I lived in Singapore and I traveled to China a lot and I've bought a lot of Chinese products. I've ridden in Chinese EVs. They're
Hmm.
amazing,
Yeah.
Mm.
right? The
Yeah.
quality and the performance and the features at half the cost. It's I can see why the U.S. government and the current administration is a little scared
Yeah.
about Chinese products and Chinese both hard and soft products coming into the U.S.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I was in China last winter recently. Yeah, that was the first time I realized like, yeah, these Chinese cars are legitimately just like better.
Yeah, they are.
than the
They're
cars
amazing.
here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of our family friends had this like sick Xiaomi car.
Mm.
Xiaomi
Yeah.
they used to make phones or like whatever. Now they make cars, and
Mm.
it would look like a Porsche basically. Yeah,
Wow.
like so yeah, it's and it changes so fast because I remember going back to China as a kid, and it did feel like, a second world country. Like it was still transitioning. Most people were on bikes
Mm.
still. And each year I go back, I feel like it's like super different. Super
Yeah.
different. I want to go back this year because I think they just have robots now. That's my
Mm.
understanding. They just have like
Really?
robots like working at convenience stores.
Wow.
Yeah. So I want to check that out.
And that's also, I heard that it's a lot more safer in general because, so one of my clients who is a Chinese client kind of left his cell phone at a cab,
Mm-hmm.
and he was not worried at all that he was definitely sure that
Mm.
he's going to get it back.
Yeah.
And in here,
That's
in
gone.
the US, it's like, it's gone.
It's
That's
gone.
definitely not going to be,
Yeah.
you're not going to get your cell phone back.
Yeah.
In Singapore, I was at a hawker center, big public open market food court, and I was working on my laptop, and I had to go home. So I put my laptop in my bag, and for some reason, I left my bag there, took a taxi home, 20 minutes away. And then when I got home, I realized I left my bag there, right?
Yeah.
Just sitting there on the bench. So I'm like, oh my goodness. So I took a taxi back. So I'm back maybe 40, 45 minutes later, sitting right there.
Hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
That would be
Singapore's
gone
super
in
safe.
5 seconds here.
Yeah.
That would be gone if you're sitting there with the bag, probably.
Yeah.
You know, that's the problem.
Yeah. But there's trade-offs. I mean,
Yeah,
I said
definitely.
I said earlier like why I probably couldn't live in China, and it's just I would hate like relearning the internet. I know people use VPNs and
Mm.
stuff.
Mm.
I've used VPNs in China. I don't know if I can say that. Like, yeah, I think I can say that. But it's still just annoying.
Yeah.
Like as an American,
Yeah.
right? And it's partly that safe because there's cameras everywhere,
Mhm.
and like I think a lot of it is overblown and propagandized in the US as like, oh, they like literally
Censorship
literally
and
everything is
surveillance,
tracked,
yeah.
and there's a social credit score. Like that kind of is overblown a bit, I think. But the fact is that like, yes, they can, if they wanted to, track you very well in
Mm.
China
Mm.
with cameras, with your internet presence. So I don't know. I just don't think I'd want to live like
Mm.
that.
A friend of mine, I went to go visit him in Shanghai. He's an American, Korean American, and his company sent him to Shanghai for a couple of years, him and his family. And his kids were going to an international school there.
Mhm.
And then I remember the president came to Shanghai to visit for something, and they shut down the school, all schools.
Mm.
They gave the kids a holiday for a day or two or something like that.
Mhm.
And there was a WeChat group with parents
Mm.
of the school, of the international school, and they were complaining, you know how much tuition I pay for this school?
Mhm.
I can't believe they're taking a day or two of education away from my son or his daughter. And the very next day, the school contacted the head of the parent association, said, you guys need to be careful what you say
Wow.
on
Mm.
WeChat. So they were monitoring that chat
Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that's
They probably
that's
have,
a pretty
they
scary.
probably have keywords that just pop up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's it's not crazy. Well, China feels great to visit. It feels safe. Everything's super convenient. It feels okay until something happens to you, right?
Mhm.
Until you're
Yeah.
under the eye.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
you're like, well, I have no rights.
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah.
can happen everywhere. It can happen here in the
Well,
U.S. now.
here more and more.
You know, if you look like us,
yeah,
you know.
here more and more, but
But another thing to think about in the U.S., some separate topic, is that I think Asian Americans are one of the fastest growing population within the U.S. And I even saw a post on social media that in Orlando they did a music festival for only Asians. So,
Ooh.
and I think they had it looked like there was 40 or 50,000 people that showed
Mm.
up, and they had all these Asian American food.
is that
And
the 88 Rising?
No, it's not the 88 Rising. It was
Uh-huh.
Something separate. I
Oh,
think
interesting.
I've been to Heads in the Cloud,
Yeah.
and it was incredible.
Yeah.
Where I felt like it was 80 or 90% Asian.
Yeah.
And going to that kind of environment has been interesting. And to me, it's like, hey, there's a kind of a cultural force that Asian Americans
But
can
it wasn't
bring.
closed to non-Asians, right?
Well, it was marketed as like the biggest Asian music festival.
kind of like collaboration back in the day.
Mm,
Kind
was
of that thing. Collaboration with the K here in LA.
No, I don't know what that
Okay.
is. But
It was like
That's a
not
big
a festival.
dance
Yeah.
thing, right?
Yeah, okay.
Musicians getting
Yeah.
together, and it started off with a couple of Asian
Mm.
Americans, and it became sort of a pretty big thing. I'm not sure if it's still around now, but
Yeah, but I'm just trying. My point being that I think before we were kind of marginalized, not
Mm.
really having a voice, but
Mhm.
now Asian Americans are kind of starting to be a kind of very impactful voice,
Yeah.
and culturally and otherwise.
thanks to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys.
yeah. I mean, and I think we're kind of more prominent in movies, TV shows as well. So it's been cool to see.
Yeah. So one of the questions that we ask on this podcast is to ask the guest, what is one of the best choices that you ever made?
Yeah.
And do you have one?
Yeah, I think I texted you with you a little bit about this. Like, I just don't feel like my life. I mean, hard to say choices because you've made so many choices in your life, and sometimes choices that are bad end up being good because you grow from it. I mean, that's how I kind of look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But I did have a choice since we've been talking a lot about it. I did have a choice, like early teens. I could have, if I wanted to, move back to China, to Beijing, when my dad kind of went back to do the school thing. I would have gone to international school there in Beijing, and my mom would have been able to go back instead of raising me for a few years in the U.S. And I don't know if truly it was my choice, but I fought very hard to like stay in the U.S. because as a kid, like, you just want to stay with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
That was a choice. That was a choice that I think I got to make. And if I had made another choice, my life would have been very different.
Mm.
Maybe my life would have been better. I don't know, But to me, where I'm sitting right now, I'm glad I didn't make that choice. I'm glad I made the choice to stay in the U.S. because then I wouldn't be me,
So do you think about that conscious? I do all the time as an Asian American, and I'm sure other sort of hyphenated generations, they probably have pondered it. Like, I always think, what if I would have stayed in Korea and not
Yeah.
immigrated to U.S.? What kind of person would I be now?
Yeah.
What would I be doing? And even at a deeper level, my father was born in North Korea, and his family snuck over to the South just a couple of months before the outbreak of the Korean War.
Oh, wow.
So I wonder, what if we were stuck in North Korea?
Oh,
Well, I
wow.
probably wouldn't be here because he wouldn't have met my mom. But what if I was born in North Korea right now and
yeah,
I'm
wow.
a soldier somewhere?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, that's a hard
I
thought.
think about that a decent amount. Yeah, I mean,
I think about it a lot,
it's hard to say. Like, would I be similar?
especially if you go back to China. When I
Yeah.
go back to Korea and I interact with Koreans, I'm like, would I be like this guy?
Yeah,
You know?
it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy.
I think there's a huge difference, culturally growing up in the U.S., or at least in the formative years, where there's this thing in Korean called nunchi, which is kind of being cognizance of others, or it's kind of like being awareness of the situation.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a literal translation into English.
Like a sense of what's going on in your environment, what others are thinking of you or
Right.
acting.
Yeah, and I think in Asia, or at least in Korea, there is a heightened sensitivity of being very respectful or cognizant of what's going on in the room, and trying not to be so be very deferential to
Mhm.
everyone else in the room. Whereas in the US, it's just very individualistic. You just
Yeah.
have to say your piece.
Yeah,
If you don't get to say your piece, you may never get the chance to
Yeah.
do it.
that's a great point.
And
Yeah, a lot of Asian cultures, the reason that is, a lot of Asian cultures are based on Confucianism or Neo-Confucianism.
Mhm.
And so we have that group mentality. We're part of a group.
Mm.
So if you ask somebody in Asia, especially like Korea or Japan, who are you? They say, well, I'm such and such from this family that works at this company, part of this prefecture.
Yeah,
And in America, where we've sort of grown up, well, maybe not all our lives, but the most Americans have grown up being sort of the Teddy Roosevelt rugged individualism,
Mm-hmm.
I'm me, right?
Yeah.
Don't tread on me kind
Yeah.
of thing. So very different.
Yeah, I think you struck at exactly part of like what I was feeling when I was saying in the beginning about being kind of an Asian enclave and then eventually moving into more like a white
Mm-hmm.
dominated space. Like that is a big part of the change I think that
Mhm.
I had to make in my mind. Yeah.
Yeah. And I feel as though that difference has a big impact on business culture
Yeah.
where when you work with a boss, I think I talked about with one of my friends is that you want to set it up so the boss will say what you want to say.
Mm.
So it's not
Yeah.
that, hey, I'm going to say something to the group. You just need to present materials and facts in a
Mm.
way for the boss to say what you want to say.
This is
That's a skill.
This is
Yeah.
Asian business culture.
This is, I believe that is
Definitely.
it is one of the Asian business
Interesting.
culture, and that leads to a lot more communication.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think there is a excessive communication and providing different perspectives, whereas in the U.S. it's like, hey, if there's a decision that you want to make or a communication that you want to do, you just say that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is one big kind of cultural difference in
Yeah.
in
A
business.
lot of cultural. I remember hearing this story when I first went to Korea about this American businessman came to Korea to do a deal.
Hmm.
And the Korean businessman took him to play golf. And then they went to dinner and drank.
Yeah.
And then the next day, the American businessman is like, oh, okay, so we got to know each other. And now let's sit at the table and, draw out the contract and get this done. But instead, the Korean businessman took him to play golf again and then went out to dinner and then went out for drinks.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the third day, the American businessman goes, hey, when are we going to get to business?
Mm.
What are we doing? And the Korean businessman goes, wait, we are conducting
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's a very different way to go about it.
Yeah. Totally.
But do you think you can sort of what's called code switch now, go from, the Chinese mind and to the
Yeah.
American mind, depending
I-
on your situation?
I need to put myself in more situations to switch to be exposed to like more Chinese business dealings, I would say. I mean, I think I can code switch in like a social environment,
Mm.
like when I'm back in China pretty easily. And, after a day or two, just feel like very comfortable in that culture. But, I think from a business perspective, it's a little, an area of improvement that I
I
need to
would
make.
say, I think AI is one of the things that really changed my business practices
Yeah.
where even if I'm bicultural and fluent in both languages, I think I've definitely been lacking on kind of actually business communication.
Yep.
And now with AI and chatbots, you're able to communicate just as well as any business communication. And I think for me, if I don't think I can write the business communication or those phrasings the right way
In Korean.
in Korean, but if I see it,
Mm-hmm.
I know what's right.
Right. Right.
So I think that has been like a game changer for me for
Yeah.
at least trying to communicate with kind of Korean clients. And I'm wondering if you kind of experienced that.
I need to do that more, honestly. That's
Mhm.
that's a great point. The Chinese clients that I do have, honestly, they a lot of them have like either a US representative or someone who like is Chinese but can speak English, maybe not very well, but can do it and can type emails in English. The times where I've had to like actually speak in Chinese or type in Chinese, like I can type it because there's this thing called pinyin, which is just like phonetically how you say things in Mandarin. But that was all pre-AI.
Mhm.
And so I would love an opportunity to like, because I can imagine just typing an email the way I would normally type it, but having them translate it to Chinese and then making sure that it looks good.
But I
before
think
sending it.
Han makes a great point. It's that sort of cultural nuance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the translation services out there are really great now, and you can. But the problem is, we tend to think in English.
Yeah.
We write it in English, and then we translate it into Korean or Chinese or whatever the language. But that cultural nuance isn't there. We would, for example, never say this in Korean.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to a Korean boss or a Korean client.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas in America, we just say, "Hey, what do you want to do?"
Yeah.
Like he said, we wouldn't say that to the boss. Hey, what do you want to do?
Yeah, but when I'm using AI chatbot, I mean, the first draft itself is a little awkward. But
Yeah.
then I ask it, hey, can you write this in more Korean business casual?
Prompt it. Yeah.
And then it gets to where I want it to be or closer to it, which I can edit it slightly
Right.
to
But
get
the
it.
important thing is you know it. You can recognize it.
Yeah.
You can recognize it to see if it's stilted or wooden or not quite right in the cultural nuance. So even with AI, you still need people like you and you to be able to understand those nuances to say that AI is wrong or doesn't quite get it. Right?
I think the other interesting flip side is clients from Asia are getting more and more eloquent in the way they speak English or
Yeah.
type English
All of a sudden,
to us.
Yeah,
And the
that's
instructions are a lot clearer,
yeah.
more, a little bit formal, but still the communication is a lot clearer because before, when we would have to read emails from kind of Asian clients, the phrasings would be off, the word choices would be not correct. And reading between the lines was kind of our job. But now, even in the last 6 months, I think the communication level has kind of gotten so much better.
Yeah, I think it's gonna get to a point pretty quickly where it's just gonna start translating, right? It's just gonna auto translate
Like Star
things
Trek.
that send between, like, you can just type in English and they'll just have like an auto translate. I mean, this already exists in WeChat in a lot of ways and other things, I'm sure. But it's gonna get even better to the point where it doesn't feel like a translation. It's just I'm typing English, they're seeing Chinese or Korean.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm sure the voice is going to get there at some point too.
It's
the
so
voice
funny, like you
translation.
mentioned. Like I mean, obviously, in my industry, I work with a lot of my staff are Asian. They're Singaporean or Filipino or Chinese, and some of them their English skills are not so good.
Yeah.
And we communicate by WhatsApp most of the time. And for the last 10 years, somebody would be texting me in broken English, and all of a sudden, they send me a text that looked like a PhD in English literature. I was like, what is this? Who are you?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, hey, are you using AI? Stop using that. Just tell me what you need to know, what I need to know. And it's like, no, this is me. I'm writing this, boss. That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
But I actually think using AI is better. It's better to communicate through those mediums if it's actually delivering the right message that you want to deliver.
Yeah, that's the key,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like some of these, like my staff, some of them, they don't know what they're looking for, right? Because their English ability is not so good. So when they write this and it's all this eloquent speech and they're just trying to tell me that, I'm going to be an hour late. And it's like a 3-paragraph thing of prose coming to me, so. But in your industry, obviously, it makes much more sense.
Yeah,
right?
I think the pros outweigh the cons, like for cross-border translation stuff like that, especially once it gets even more efficient. But I will say, if you're American, we're both, based in America, and like I'm personally pretty tired of seeing people's emails like just kind of be AI slop.
Yeah.
When you can just type in English.
Yeah.
Because it's, to me, I can kind of spot it.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's ones that they use AI and I don't really spot, but it's just like,
Well, I just assume everyone's
type an
using
email,
AI.
yeah.
I just assume everyone's using an AI. And
Which is fine,
Yeah.
as long as the meaning
yeah.
translates, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
So I guess another question, even though you don't agree with this concept, is what is one of the worst choices that you made? And
worst choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
being on this podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is great. Worst choice, and like, I'm curious how your other guests answer this. Like, do they just do people really have like a choice that maybe I'm lucky in the sense that I haven't had like a life defining choice where
Mm.
I was like, oh, I fucked that up and that changed my life,
Mm.
There's things that like I look back and I'm like, yeah, I could have done things better, but because I was like bad at something, it actually made me, I guess, now like look back and realize that was a weakness and improve on it and
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And so then if I didn't, make that choice or do that, then I wouldn't be the same person. But you know,
Sounds like a college essay.
yeah, I'm making it more complicated than it should be.
Yeah.
But I think the worst choices that I end up making are ones where I like just hurt people, especially people
Mm.
that I care about, because I do think, and I'm trying to get better at this, but whether it's your partner or your family or someone, especially people that you love or you're comfortable with,
Mm.
I've noticed like, yeah, like sometimes it, I just snap sometimes, like,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to become a better communicator,
Mm-hmm.
become better at like, my actions and words, making sure I'm like not hurting people. Cause I do
Mm.
think that's like a choice
Mm.
Yeah.
that probably everyone does a lot,
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, just kind of getting control over my childlike emotions. Sometimes I feel like I should improve that.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's really interesting because I think a lot of people, when they think about their bad choices, it's a bad choice, but if they learn from it or something good came out of, for example, like I don't know, my first wife, marrying her, I think it's like one of my bad choices. But then my son,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine
Right.
like not having my son, and so in the end, it was a great choice.
Right.
Mhm.
That's why it's kind of a hard question.
Yeah, starting my
Yeah.
internet company, spending all that time and money and sweat and tears and blood and effort, and then having to shut it down. But I learned so much about business and running a business and starting a business. And so that's also valuable. And that helped me start other businesses.
Yep.
And
Mm-hmm.
so then you go,
Yeah.
oh, is it
It's a
really a
learning
bad choice?
experience.
Yeah.
I think maybe one way to phrase it is if you have a regret,
Mm-hmm.
I think there are some choices I made that I still regret. I mean, I don't dwell on it,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we talked about giving up archery,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
go into, get into the Olympics. I regret that. I think that was a bad choice. Nothing
Mm.
good came out of that. Right?
Oh,
So maybe those kind of
you
things.
gave up archery?
Yeah,
to-
I was training for archery for
That's so
like
cool.
6 years and trying to make the Olympic team, but then I started playing American football, so
Yeah.
I gave it up. But
Yeah.
that's a regret. That's a
Mm.
bad choice, I
Yeah.
think. Nothing really good came from that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Man,
Do you have any one of those regrets?
It's a hard question. I mean, I feel like this is kind of lame, but I feel like I guess I could have like tried harder in law school, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, I was growing up a lot
Yeah.
during that time. Honestly, was like partying a lot in
Mm-hmm.
law school, which probably shouldn't do because you're spending so much money. But I think if I had like kind of locked in a little bit more in law school, I would have had like, I don't know, I would have had more to like go on, because my career didn't really feel like it started moving in the direction I wanted it to go until I joined this firm
Mm.
like 7 years ago. But I've been practicing for 12 years. So there's that 4 or 5 year period after graduating law school where I was kind of lost. I mean, I was working at the satellite office of this firm I was telling you about. There was not much mentorship. I was just kind of teaching myself in a lot of ways. And I feel like, maybe if I did a better job in law school, like worked a little harder, made more connections, I would have shortened that period of struggle.
Mm.
But then if you didn't work at that satellite
That's
office,
exactly
you
what I'm
wouldn't have
saying.
worked with Calvin.
It's
on that
exactly what
deal.
I'm saying.
You wouldn't
Yeah,
have gone to
it's-
Troy Gould where you
it's-
wanted to be, right?
That's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
it's
so
hard,
I guess
it's
there
hard
are
to
no
say.
bad choices.
It's hard to
Well,
say.
the question really is what is a bad choice you're willing to disclose here?
Yeah. There you go.
That's it. And of course, if you're willing to disclose here, it is going to
Hey.
be also a good choice.
Yeah.
What happens in this podcast stays in this podcast. We
Hey.
promise.
Hey.
I don't know about that one.
It's going to be spread all across the internet. But Tom, thank you so much for
Thank you, Tom.
coming
Thanks for
here.
having me, guys.
Yeah, it
This
was
is
really
great.
fun.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for your drink of choice, too.
Cheers, guys.
I needed it this morning.
Yep.
Cheers.
Cheers.